If you cling on too tightly to your family and friends, you'll never realize your true potential. You'll be locked in this mindset of, this is what I know, this is what I love, and this is my comfort zone. I get it. That's a very comfortable place to live in. It's what we know. It's what feels good to us, and we love the familiarity of everything day to day life. But what you have to realize is nothing is absolute. You have to look at life like there are different seasons. Life is this journey. It's different seasons. Think about the spring, the summer, the winter, all the different times that you go through. You have to sit back and analyze lens through that same scope. By maintaining the same exact thing, by living within the same means, you're just going to lock yourself into this particular mindset and you're not going to be able to adapt and grow. When we're out in the workforce and we jump to different jobs, we take upon new challenges, perhaps we start university and stuff like that, we have to adapt. We have to accept new challenges. We have to put ourselves in unfamiliar territory in order to grow, in order to gain an experience, gain new perspectives that will shape us and develop the way we think. It will develop our strategies in life. It will develop what we strive for. And in order to kind of dive deeper into this, I'd like to reflect on some of my experiences growing up. So, it's story time, so buckle up. I've lived in the Chicagoland area for the majority of my life. I'm 29 years old. I was born and raised in the United States. My parents are immigrants from Pakistan. They moved here in the late 80s. Ever since I've grown up, Illinois, Chicago, that's all I've known. The first time in my life that I truly had to move away from my friends and family was when I was 12 years old. My parents enrolled me in boarding school. It was a private school and I had attended it in order to obtain some religious studies. And my parents dropped me off at boarding school. I'm 12 years old. And that was the first time that I actually had to live away from my friends, my family, parents, siblings, grandparents, everybody. And it wasn't the easiest transition for me. A lot of the kids that were in that boarding school were much older than I was. They were all the way up to 18 years old. Of course, I was the victim of bullying. While there were harsh times involved in that, I learned a lot as well. I was able to make good friends and it was fun. We had good times as well. We would wrestle and just talk about anime and random stuff like that. As, time went along, my parents came to realize that it was a very harsh experience for me. It was overall, I would say the negative outweighed the good. So my parents ultimately pulled me out of boarding school up until the end of 8th grade. So basically 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I was basically homeschooled. Somewhere along the lines, my parents went through a situation financially where they decided that we're going to sell the house. What happened was in 2010, we all moved to Pakistan. We moved to Pakistan for about 2 years. My younger siblings were there a little bit longer than I was. In the grand scheme of things, I think I was only out there for about a year. While I was living out there, it was a tough time for me because this was something that I've went through before. When I was 12, I had to leave behind everybody. And then now here I am at the age of 14, 15, and I'm leaving everybody behind. And you got to realize that it's a lot different than moving to a different state in the United States. I'm on the other side of the planet. I lost connection with a lot of the friends that I grew up with. Everybody thought I just kind of fell off the map. And when I came back, I entered back into high school. I moved to a totally different neighborhood than the one I grew up in. As time went on, I eventually made new friends. I got into different things. I remember I was big into breakdancing. That was something that I picked up along the way. History had a tendency to repeat itself. So we fast forward a little bit, and now it's 2020. March of 2020. I go back to visit family in Pakistan. Visiting Pakistan is something that's rather frequent on my end. I'd say I'd like to make a trip out there every 2 to 3 years, and I do enjoy it. I think it's really cool. I don't know if I'd ever live there full time. I do really enjoy the life I have in the United States because I am the first US born citizen in my entire family. So I have a deep connection with the red, white, and blue. But regardless, I visit Pakistan in 2020, March of 2020, and I get stuck there because we all know what happened, right? It was COVID time. And I end up getting stuck in Pakistan for a whole year. And this was right outside of college. Luckily, at the time, I didn't have a job lined up, so I graduated college in December of 2019. Then in March of 2020, I fly out there and I get stuck there for a year. And once again, the same thing happens. I'm far away from friends and family. I'm out there alone. Sure, I had social media and other ways to stay in touch with people. You can't deduct that from the fact that it was a hard transition period for me. So ultimately, I make my way back to the United States. In 2021, I decide that, you know what, it's time for a change. I've lived in the Chicagoland area my whole life. Personally, I'm not someone that's very fond of cold weather, so I've always wanted to move somewhere warm. And I decide that, okay, I'm going to turn a new leaf, I'm going to pack my bags, and I'm going to move to Houston. So in 2021, I moved to Houston. I lived in Houston for roughly 3 to 4 months. It did not really go as planned. I had high expectations moving to Houston, and I thought I was going to start a whole new life out there. That was a very unique experience for me. That was the first time where I actually fell into a rather deep state of depression. I really felt like I was missing home. I can't really explain it. It's a tough space to talk about. For some reason, I just felt really detached from everybody that I know. And maybe mentally by that point, I was very fatigued from having done it so many times in my life. So I ended up moving back to Illinois in the end of 2021. And I'd like to say that maybe, job opportunities were better here. I attended university for finance. The market for finance is just a lot better in Chicago. So perhaps that was an excuse for me to move back here. But I wouldn't take that experience back. I wouldn't change it for anything. I'm very grateful that I did get the opportunity to live out in Houston. What I'm trying to say is if there's something that I've learned from all these different moments in my life where I've had to leave family behind and move on, is that every time I did that, I learned something new. I put myself through a situation where there was just greater wisdom, and I was able to adapt. I was able to meet new people. I was able to learn more about myself, about how I am as a person. After that, I didn't really move out again until 2024. I lived with my parents for a very long time. I would say I was about 27 when I left my parents' place, and that's because I ended up getting married. Ever since I got married in 2024, I've now moved out. I'm still in the Chicagoland area, but I moved away from that nest, which is my family, my parents, my siblings. It's been good. I have a good thing going on with the wife right now, and I'm enjoying life. I don't live too far from family, so I could still visit them. The thing that you have to realize is if you stay in one place forever, you're not going to be able to interact with different people and learn different things. And we need that perspective in life. When you have different ideas, like business ideas or ideas relating to your creativity and how you want to express yourself, sometimes staying in the same scenario won't allow you to find that inspiration, to be able to change the game up. One thing that I'd like to say to everybody is if you haven't ever moved away from family and friends, I would highly advise it. Give it a try. There's nothing to lose. If things don't work out, you can always move back. I'm in a position right now where, I'd love to try to move again. Like I said earlier, I really do like the warm weather. If my wife was up for it, I'd move away somewhere warm just to try it again. I think there's stuff that I learned from my experience in Houston, and I know what I would do differently. Granted, one thing I did forget to mention is when I was in Houston, it was straight up just moving out there with no job lined up. I was driving DoorDash. So I'm sure if I were to make a move like that again, I'd make an effort to have a career lined up and everything else lined up before doing so. But it was pretty cool. I'm still in touch with my roommate that I met in Houston. He's one of the best people I've ever met. We talk all the time. So I'm glad I was able to make that connection. It's actually one of the most valuable connections and relationships that I've ever developed with anybody. He is more than a roommate. He's like family to me. When you move on from your family and friends, you realize that you aren't locked into the same way they think. You're not bound to somebody's schedule. You're going to experience a different sense of freedom. Ever since I moved out of my parents' place, my financial situation has just improved so drastically. Depending on the household you grow up in, you're learned to interpret money a certain way. And that's just the influence of others around you. Ever since I was able to detach and do my own thing, I've been able to plan stuff financially on my own accord. And it's worked out great for me. I look back and I'm like, I would not be in the situation that I am today if I did not move on. I would not have created the relationships in Pakistan if I never left the United States. I've gained so many perspectives of life. I've been able to learn different languages. I've been able to humble myself because for anybody that hasn't traveled outside of the United States, especially to a third world country, you come to realize that we are very privileged here in the United States. When you travel to these places outside, you really view the world through a different lens. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's something that has allowed me to really value life and to look below and not always above myself, to realize that I have it better than a lot of people. I'm not saying that you cut off family and friends entirely. I think that there is a balance to be found. And if we all try to work towards that, we can definitely find that. Because we need that. We need family, we need friends. But ultimately, it's just you. When you look inside that mirror, it's just you that you're staring at. And if you want to really develop as a person, you need to go out and get yours. You need to be able to move out. And for anybody that's watching that's done something similar, maybe you had to move away for university, or maybe you lived with your parents up until a point where some opportunity came in a different state, you'll have to agree with me that you learned a lot about yourself. You developed and you are glad that you went through it. And even if things did not go to your plan, you learned so much in the process. That's what I'd like to leave everybody with today is do cherish the moments you have with people, but do realize that the world is out there. There's so much to go out and experience. I'm a little late to the game. I've talked about this in previous videos. I'm a huge fan of anime. I've been watching anime since I was a kid. And I'd say I've been pretty good about watching like the big titles, but the one that always got away from me was One Piece. I never watched One Piece and I've been watching it recently. But the thing that I find so cool about One Piece is that they're like traveling the world. And it's cool because career-wise, I actually work as an internal auditor. For anybody that doesn't know, I basically evaluate the financial and operational performance of different companies across the US and Europe and stuff like that. So I travel a lot for work. So when I watch One Piece, I kind of gain like this sense of inspiration. I'm like, you know what? They're traveling the world, they're meeting new people, they're developing themselves, and I can kind of apply that same lens to my life. I guess it kind of worked out for me in the end. I was someone that growing up, moving and shifting around and traveling was something I didn't like. But now I've come to accept it as not only something that's in my career, but something that I derive a lot of value from. Leave everything behind. Leave your family behind. They're not going anywhere. You might even leave some toxic relationships along the way as well. And go out there, explore, find different perspectives, find different opportunities for yourself. You might move somewhere else and find the love of your life or your dream job. But how are you going to know if you don't take that step to just pack up everything and go? What's the worst that can happen? You won't like it? You can always come back. All in all, don't stay locked in what you know. Learn how to live outside of your comfort zone, and you might change your life for the better.